Daniel, thank you so much for coming to the Mentor Talk. How's it going?
Oh, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure having you with me. As we start, the Mentor Talk is done. We decided to do this series of podcasts to help funders, startup funders, mainly to understand what to do and which kind of mistakes do not repeat all the time. I've been 6 times funders. EquityMatch is my last startup. And I've done so many mistakes in my life. So if funders cannot repeat the same mistakes that we all know that do not work, it's better for them. But as we start, would you like to give an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, of course. And I can tell you, I've made my share of mistakes. So we're definitely going to be able to talk about what not to do in this episode. So my name is Daniel Wood. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Swedish Wealth Institute. My journey started with investing in real estate in the UK. So I'm born and raised in Sweden, but it's not a very good market to invest in real estate in. And I went to an event where a British company came to Sweden and explained that the UK is a very good market, which is very true. So I knew I needed help. I needed a mentor. I needed someone to guide me because I had no experience. And they promised me what they call a business in a box. They were going to give me all the contacts and connections. They were going to be able to handle everything. And I just said, great. So I paid them about $20,000. And I asked them, like, all right, so if the team is going to do everything, right? We have the lawyers, we have the accountants, we have the estate agents, we got the builders. Like, they're going to handle everything on the property side. What is my job? And they said, well, your job is to raise money. And I said, well, I've never done property before. Who's going to give me money to invest? They said, no, remember, they're not giving you the money. They're investing with your team. So we've put together these brochures for you where you can show people how experienced your team is. I said, awesome. All right, this sounds easy. And so a bunch of friends and family, they came in on this, and we used our partners, and we started buying property in the UK. And on paper, things looked like they were going really, really well until we realized that a lot of this was on paper. We started getting build reports and rental agreements and rental reports that showed everything was going great, but it turned out a lot of these were faked.
Oh, no.
And by the time we figured out what was really happening, it had taken about a year had gone by. And our portfolio was now 400,000 pounds in the red. So we had lost over 400,000 pounds. And I had to go back to my friends and family and tell them, this amazing future we were building. Yeah. Instead, I lost everything.
It was a scam.
Yeah, I was tricked, and it did not go. And I mean, hypothetically, we did own property, right? We actually did own buildings. They just hadn't been refurbed. They weren't being rented out. They were in bad shape. Like, just money had disappeared in a million different ways. And they were smart enough to make it look legal enough that there was nothing I could do. There was no one I could sue. And I got a call from my accountant about a year later, because I had no idea how to fix this. So for a year, I was stressing about it, trying to figure it out. And I get a call from my accountant who says, Daniel, it's time to bankrupt your company.
No.
And as a Swede, in Sweden, we don't bankrupt companies. Like, if you bankrupt a company, you're never going to be an entrepreneur again. That's it's over now. You're done. So I'm looking at it and going like, crap, I got like 40 years left now of having to work in a job, and I'll never have the freedom of entrepreneurship. So I say to Michael, my accountant, I'm like, all right, so what does this mean? What's going to happen? And he says, all right, so what we'll do is we'll take the properties you have, we'll sell them, we will write off, we'll pay off as much of the debt as we can, we'll write off the rest, and then I'll set up a new company for you, and you can start again with all these lessons. I went, wait, what? Start again? Like reset? He's like, yeah, we just start over. You've learned lots in the last 2 years. I'm sure it'll go better this time. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, why didn't you tell me this 12 months ago? Like, I've been stressing for a year, right? I barely slept. That's why I already have white hairs, because I was so stressed about this. And he said, well, yeah, that's how we do it here. And I said, all right. So, and I was really excited about this, but then I asked the question, and this is what truly changed my life. So this all happened over a decade ago, and I wouldn't be where I am today without both those mistakes, but also if I hadn't asked this question. And what I asked him was, all right, so this is amazing. We can reset, restart, and I can go again. But what happens to my investors? And he said, well, they invested in failed projects, so they will have lost most of their money. And I said, well, first off, no, they didn't invest in failed projects. They invested in me. Second of all, what we're saying is they're going to lose everything and I'm going to start over fresh. No. So we're not bankrupting the company. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I have absolutely no idea, but I'm going to figure it out somehow. And this is so what actually started me out on this journey was a book called, and I don't know if you've read this, Massimiliano, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
No. Oh, yeah, absolutely. No. I did. Of course I did last year.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. It's a great book by Robert Kiyosaki, all about how to invest and be an entrepreneur and build that journey. And that's what had started me on this journey. And then I saw an ad saying he was coming to Oslo to speak. And so I said, all right, let's go and learn from him live, because obviously I missed something, right? I missed something in the lesson and I lost 400,000 pounds. So I went to Norway and I learned from him. I learned at the event and it was great. But what really impacted me at that event was, this was in Norway, this was in Oslo, and we were about 2,000 people at this event. But I realized that about 1,000 of us were Swedish. So 1,000 people had traveled from a different country to come and learn, and 1,000 people, had rolled out of bed and shown up. So I went to the promoters and the organizers of the event, and I said, why didn't you do this in Stockholm? Like, if you'd done this in Sweden, you would have had so many more people. And they said, no, Swedes aren't interested in this. And I'm like, we showed up here. Like, we traveled, plane, car, train. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, all of these are Norwegians. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're Swedish. And I argued with them for an hour about this. And finally, I realized that the reason why these speakers weren't coming to Sweden is because that was the perception. Swedes are not interested in this. And this is what then led to the founding of the Swedish Wealth Institute here. Because what had happened during going through this training where I learned how to lose 400,000 in property, there were a lot of other people that had gone through this training. In all, we were about 200 people. And we were lucky that we were able to kind of grab all these, and we created our own community where we would meet up once a month and try to help each other out. But it was kind of like the blind leading the blind, right? None of us knew what we were doing, but we're trying to help each other. But we realized that I couldn't go traveling around the world to get help, because I knew I needed someone to come and help me fix my company, my property company. But can you imagine going back to my investors, my friends, and telling them, hey, that money you invested with me, I know I lost it all, but don't worry, I'm going to fly to Florida now and buy some more training and I'm going to fix it. Like, they would have just yelled at me, right? Just, why are you paying money to fly to Florida? Just give me that money, right? Like, why are you wasting more? So I knew I couldn't go flying around the world. I couldn't go, paying for training. But I realized I had a community of 200 people who were, who had invested in themselves, who were in this world and were the perfect target for a speaker. So we said, well, why don't we set this up as a company? We bring in a speaker to come and speak. We open the doors beyond the 200 people and bring in a bigger audience, and the community will learn from the speaker. The speaker will have an audience. And for me, it was never about making money, right? I was trying to fix the property business. So I said, well, I can take the speaker out to dinner after and get some free coaching. And it took 2 years of doing this before I could bring Kim Kiyosaki to Sweden, the then wife of Robert Kiyosaki, who managed their property portfolio. So at the time, she'd done over 3,000 property deals. And I showed her our situation. And she just looked at it and went, well, this is what you need to do. restructure that debt, restructure that deal, and do 2 more deals like that, and your books are balanced. I had been trying to figure this out for 3 years. 4 years have gone by. 1 year to screw it up, 3 years to try to fix it. And it took her 15 minutes to go restructure that deal, restructure that debt, and do 2 more deals like that. And for the first time in 3 years, I had hope and I had a target. And that is when I understood. And this is why the Swedish Wealth Institute became my passion. And I've more or less completely exited real estate now, is I realized that a bad mentor will cost you everything, right? Mine ended up costing me, my finances. I ended up having to sell my home. I lost my marriage. Like, I lost everything. And it took a good mentor 15 minutes to fix everything, to just help me create a new future for myself. And that's what we do today with the Swedish Wealth Institute. We connect entrepreneurs and investors with the right mentor at the right time for them to take the next step on their journey.
The wrong mentor and the wrong investor, they can really destroy your entrepreneurial life. And not only to be an entrepreneur, your entire life. You're totally right. But what exactly with your Swedish Wealth Institute you do now? I mean, which kind of help you give it to who?
I love that question. So what we do is we run events with some of the most amazing speakers in the world. Our goal is to figure out where are you on your entrepreneurial journey and where is it you want to go? Because usually there's only 1, maybe 2, max 3 things that are holding you back. And sometimes they're your own mindset. Sometimes it's a skill you don't have. Sometimes it's a connection you need. But there's going to be one thing, like, if we could fix that, everything changes. And so what we do is we run these events where we bring in 20 absolutely amazing speakers, top in the world in their respective markets. One of them we work with is Robert Kiyosaki, which is very cool, kind of full circle. We work very closely with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. We work with Nick Vujicic, Les Brown, Marcy Shimoff, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy, Janet Atwood, John Assaraf, Dr. John DeMartini, like absolutely amazing speakers that have helped our audience. And so during these 4 days, we usually give away the tickets for free because our goal is to help as many people as possible. And during these 4 days, you're learning from each of these speakers. And then what we do, so it doesn't just become a presentation where you sit and listen and then it's like, oh, that was cool. And then the speaker disappears. We've organized it so each speaker then gives a gift at the end of their presentation. And the goal of that gift is twofold. One is for you to be able to learn deeper from that speaker and really this is what I need, let me learn more. But the second is to get that gift, you give them your contact details, right? You give them your name, your phone number, your email, and now they can reach out to you and you could actually start working with them one-on-one. And just like I did with Kim Kiyosaki, and that's where the magic truly can happen. And that's what we're trying to do in each event is to, it is generic. It's for, there's 20,000 people that come to an event and there's, 20 different speakers. So you got to figure out all right, what is my weakness? What am I missing? And who of these speakers is the one that's going to be that missing piece of my puzzle? And then we make that introduction.
That's brilliant. I mean, which are the main topics they are covering during this pitch?
So we have a methodology we call the Swedish Wealth Institute methodology that was created together with these speakers, which are basically it's the 8 steps to what we call greatness. We've studied the most successful people in history. We've studied over 74 different research studies on what it takes to be truly great. What is the difference that makes the difference? And what we found is there are 7 steps that separate those who truly achieve greatness from those who might just achieve a little bit or very little. And the first step is called your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. So the first thing these speakers teach, and we have some of the most amazing experts in the world on your mindset, on your gratitude, your faith, your calm, your ability to lead yourself, your ability to lead others, and that side of it. So it is a softer science as well. Then we get into step 2, which is all about goal setting. So step 2 we call clarity. It's where are you now and where do you want to go? And so we have Brian Tracy, who is probably the best speaker in the world when it comes to goal setting, who sits down with the audience and really shows them multiple ways to clarify their goals and really identify, this is where I'm at and this is where I'm going. It's kind of like a GPS, right? If you want to get from point A to point B, well, the first thing you need to know is where are you going? And then the third thing is step 3 is which vehicle are you going to take? So, with a GPS, is it a bicycle? Is it a car? Are you going to walk? Are you going to take public transport? For your life, it's, am I going to be an employee? Am I going to, work, am I going to be a digital nomad? Am I going to be an entrepreneur? And am I going to be an investor? Am I going to be an influencer or whatever else you want to be? And so we introduce to speakers that teach these different things. So we have basically investors teaching every single type of investment vehicle out there. And then we have experts on entrepreneurship that will cover everything from AI to branding, to sales, to marketing, to business ops, to how to write a book, and covering all these different aspects. And then we continue through these 7 steps to really make sure that everyone has all the tools they need. And we're trying to help them identify, again, what is the one I'm not getting right? Like, is it a skill I'm missing? Or is it my mindset that's the problem? Or do I just not know what I want? And throughout the event, we're trying to make sure to fill in those blanks so you can come out of the event and just explode.
I mean, a big believer that when you have this kind of mentorship, whatever it's going to be, you need a long time to assess.
Yeah.
Which means, okay, 2, 3, 4 days can be good, but won't be enough, right? Yeah. What happens after?
I love that you say that, because that is step 6, is let time do the heavy lifting, that you have to have patience. And I love I've studied the story of Nike a lot. I've studied a lot of companies, but I love the story of Nike because Nike's one of the biggest companies in the world now. And they did really, really well. Essentially, through their first 30 years, they basically doubled their revenue every year, like amazing results. But if you go back to the very beginning, how they started, at their first 3 years, they doubled their revenue every year. So amazing growth, right? But their total revenue for those 3 years was about $48,000. Over 3 years, with not just one person, but multiple people working on this, they did, whatever, $40,000, $50,000 of revenue. And we forget that because we see what Nike is now. And so we got to remind ourselves that, we have to be a little patient, and patience is a word every entrepreneur hates. But we just gotta become 1% better every day. That's our internally in the Swedish Wealth Institute. Every day, every meeting, that's what we talk about. How do we get 1% better every day? How do we make something just a little bit better? And so you're completely right. These 4 days are truly just the starting point. So after the event, there are kind of 2 things that we support 3 things, I should say, that we support our audience with. One is we make that direct connection to the mentors. So the idea is not that you learned everything at the event. At the event, you found who could help you, like who could teach you everything, right? Or the next thing. So after the event, then you start working with that mentor. And that mentor might now be your mentor for the next years. Or you might see, well, actually, I just needed one skill from this mentor. I just needed to learn AI. Now I need to learn something else. And so we have a Swedish Wealth Institute community where you're a member, you connect with people from all over the world. There are courses, there are trainings, we have meetups. And what we try to do then is, let's say you went out and you're like, okay, great, I've learned AI. Now you come back to the community and you go, all right, so what is now missing? What is now the thing that's holding me back? And we help you identify that. And then we help you identify, well, who's the best person in the world to help you with the next challenge? And so you go out again and you learn more. So either you'll go down with one mentor for years, or you'll keep, learning a little bit from this person. And then we kind of create that base for you. And then, of course, we have our podcast. So every week, we interview these absolutely amazing people who will share their journey and kind of what did they do to grow, or, how did they become so massively successful, and what can we learn from them?
I mean, this is great. I find so insightful to have something similar. Any state should do, but I believe also private sector should move to this kind of direction. I think mentoring is not that valued as it should be.
Yeah.
Many people, they believe they can stay without. But as you said, any kind of, not only entrepreneurs, but everybody in their journey to succeed in life, any kind of success as is defined, they need someone who guide them for a while. At least tell them there's something maybe can be avoided. These kind of skills are required. Based on your experience, where do you see the common skills lacking in the majority of these people coming? What they're looking for?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, because there are it's different for each phase of a business. So I think most entrepreneurs, when they start out, the first thing and the most important thing, and all of our mentors, they keep repeating this because it's so true. The first thing you need to learn, you might already be good at it, but otherwise you got to learn, is sales and marketing. Because so many entrepreneurs, we become an entrepreneur because we see a problem, right? We see that, it might be one of our clients, he is launching a new kind of water filtration system, right? So he's incredibly passionate about the fact that a lot of the water that people drink is actually not healthy water. It's got all these toxins in it. So he's incredibly passionate, and he's an engineer. So he's developed this absolutely amazing water filter that fixes it, right? And will allow you to drink healthier water, which will make you healthier. We're whatever it is, 80% water, right? So it makes a huge impact on your life. But if he doesn't know how to market and sell this product, he's never going to have a business. He might have some really cool patents that he can say, hey, that's my patent, but he won't have a business. So the first thing you need to do is to be able to sell and to be able to get money in and product out the door. Otherwise, you're not going to have an impact on anyone. And so that's a really important skill that a lot of entrepreneurs just don't have, because that's not their passion. They got into it to change lives, not to force people to buy my thing. But if you can learn to do it, then you can grow. The next problem comes when you start scaling and you go from being the one-man show who's, did everything and, controls everything and knows everything that's going on. And then you start scaling, you start hiring people. And I've seen this go in a couple different ways. One of the things I fell into and keep falling into is, first, you're really afraid of hiring that first person. And so I hired our first assistant, and the goal was just to get rid of all my tasks that I did not like to do, right? I got rid of everything boring and just gave that. So the first problem I had was I gave these things away, but I didn't want them being done worse, right? I still wanted the quality. So I was very close in it, which was good. Like, she really got to learn how to do it. But at some point she kind of had to go, Daniel, I know what I'm doing now. Go away. and I had to back off. And luckily she told me and I took the feedback, but that could have been really bad. But then what then happened was, it was so fun, right? Because now I didn't have to do the boring stuff. So I tried giving her more and more. And finally it was like, she couldn't do more. So now I had to hire someone else, and I could give them more. And then I could hire another one. And then it was like, all right, now I've given away all my boring stuff, but they have more time. Like, what are we going to do now? And that's when we had to figure out the next step. And that was to innovate. That was where our 1% better every day came from, is how do we make the company better? And they started making improvements because they became passionate about our mission as well, which was really, really exciting. But now it's almost addictive to hire people, because every time you hire someone, I get to do more fun stuff. I get rid of the boring stuff, and they can innovate. And now all of a sudden, you got to remember that I still have to be able to pay their salaries. And so you have to start getting really smart in how do you scale. And then as you get to certain levels, you start realizing that things are getting chaotic. So now we had to kind of slow down and go, all right, this is really cool. We're doing really well. The events are, everything is booming, but we keep making mistakes because we don't have a proper structure. We're kind of trusting everyone to be like I was and know exactly what they're doing and have full control. But it's not like that, because there are 6 different people with overlapping jobs. And how do I know that this is being done, and how, who's checking? So now we had to sit down and really structure things up and go through multiple phases of, all right, here's a system. Here's how we double check and triple check. Here's how we come back to it, and make sure that this became a new part of the company DNA before we could go into another round of massive growth. So each level of a business has its own challenge, and it kind of is, sales and marketing in step 1. It's letting go of your need to control everything in step 2. It's your ability to hire and expand in step 3. And then it kind of comes back to the opposite of step 2 and say, well, actually, you do have to have some control. You do need to know what's going on. You do need to have financial reports and dashboards that catch everything. So it's kind of everything you learned in step 2, you have to now unlearn in step 4, but without taking away their ability to be innovative. And then throughout your growth, there's another challenge and a new learning. And this is, again, as you said, with mentors, that's why they're so important, because they've done this and they can tell you, hey, you're running into this next phase. You need better systems because otherwise it's going to break. And so before you break it, they can tell you and you can fix it.
That's totally right. For example, I have a lot of employees. They are everywhere. So the only way I can fully control for what can be done, of course, is having dashboard in front of me. So I don't need to call anybody. I see in real time what's going on, and things run pretty well. But as you said, you must sell. Of course, any business has to sell. But for what has been my journey, I find the most difficult things are 2. Hiring, because scaling is by far the most difficult part of any business. Hiring and establishing a very strong culture. So giving to the company the DNA that reflects what you're looking for, your beliefs, and so on and so forth. Did you find the same challenge?
So my company has had 2 different cycles, really. So there's pre-COVID and post-COVID. So in many ways, this Swedish Wealth Institute is not my second company, it's my third company, because the before COVID Swedish Wealth Institute both grew and kind of failed, and then it rose from the ashes. So the first time, we definitely had that problem, and we hired some great people. Like I've always been good at hiring, because when I started work, I actually got into recruitment. So I spent about 15 years in the recruitment industry. So I got to learn from some of the top recruiters in the world. So that in that sense, I've been very blessed. So I've been very good at recruiting the right people. But that second part of it is the culture, which is so hard. And we got that really wrong in the first one. People were out, it was about me. I should be seen. Like everyone in the team is, I want to be the star. I want to be the one who gets the cred. And it wasn't like a team effort. It was we're all going to be, I'm going to be the superhero. So everyone worked really hard. Like we were running really quickly. So it felt like we had a really good corporate culture. But when it kind of started falling apart, it turned out it was a very me-based superhero culture. And blessedly, it all fell apart. COVID happened. We couldn't do events live anymore because everything we did was physical. And so the company essentially went bankrupt. We had to, everyone had to leave. I had to work as a consultant again for other companies just to keep the company alive. But then as COVID started calming down, we shifted more into the virtual and online events, with more live being more like networking to complement the online stuff. And that gave us another level. And what's happened now with the team is they're absolutely amazing. Both, again, I've been very blessed to hire really, really good people, and we have a good process for hiring. And then for the culture, we sat down and we call it our brand book. And it's everything in the company. It covers how does our business function? How does everything connect to everything else? So everyone understands what is their role and how does it affect everything else. It covers our mission and vision, like why do we do this? Why are we so passionate? It covers how do we give back? So what is our charity work? It covers who are our clients? Why do they need us? Why do we want to help them? And it covers, of course, our corporate values. And what we've then realized, and actually when we figured out our corporate values, that was a really fun exercise, because we sat down and we listed all of our corporate values and we started working with that. But then, so two of them that instantly clashed, which was really interesting, was our first value was extreme ownership, which means you if you have a task, you own it, you make sure it's completed. Like this is we work to make sure that things go the way they're supposed to. And that was really cool. But then we had the other value, which was family and your health and your wellness and your family. And that's really important. And then we had someone in the team, just as we had an event starting up, have a crisis with their family. And they were a key person for this event. And so the entire team, we've worked for 3 months to set up this event. And now a key person has a family crisis. And we're saying, well, you extreme ownership, you better show up and make the event work. But we're also saying your family is the most important thing. So what actually is our most important thing? And so we had to sit down and go again and say, all right, so what is the order? What do these values actually mean in the real world when something comes up? And what we realized is, you know what? Family is super important, but extreme ownership comes first. We've all worked for months for this event. And just because something happens, we can't let it all go to waste, because the company will go bankrupt and everyone will lose everything. So extreme ownership comes first. Now, that doesn't mean if your grandma is in the hospital, you call her and say, sorry, grandma, I got to work. Good luck with that heart attack, right? We're not cold-blooded. Family is still super important. What it means is you were in charge of this task. This is yours. Now, your responsibility is that this is completed, but that does not mean you have to do it. That means if you have to go and take care of your grandma, you should absolutely go and take care of your grandma. She is so important, right? But you can't just run away and leave the job undone. You have to call someone and say, hey, this is my situation. Can you please take this over for me and make sure it gets done? Can I delegate this to you? And as long as you do, that's great. And we want you to take care of your family. We want you to go to the kids' soccer game. That's our core value. But it doesn't mean you can let, months of work or everyone else down. And so we had to figure that out. And then what's been really important is then that consistently through meetings, in every meeting, we're talking about these values. And I mentioned it before, 1% better every day. That means we're always looking for things to improve. And it's really important that we create a culture where that is a good thing and that is okay. So we just had an event a couple weeks ago, and it went really, really well. But there was one thing that that we kind of messed up on. We had changed the titles of some emails to a much worse version. And that meant that those emails weren't opened as much, which meant less people showed up for the event than there could have been. And what we could have done is we could have gone on a witch hunt and said, how did this happen? Who screwed up? You're going to be punished. But that would have ruined the entire company culture, because now no one wants to find a mistake because they would be in trouble, right? So instead, the whole team, the team instantly went in and they pulled the data, they looked at it, and then they went, here is the problem. And the person who made the problem, or it was a group effort, right? But still, the person who did it, extreme ownership, said, hey, that's on me, I did it. And we said, great. So how do we make sure that we catch things like this in the future? And we created a new system where we double check things, and we have a change log where we can track when we make a change, so that we can check the data instantly and see, did this improve or make it worse? So we rewarded the person who's, again, I don't want to say it screwed up, that did something that didn't work, right? Yeah. That took us in the wrong direction. We rewarded that because it was a test, and we learned, and we now know what to do better. So the entire organization instantly jumps in and goes, yeah, all right, that's on me. Let's make a system. We fixed it. For next time now, we can test new things, and we know exactly what data to find.
I mean, this is exactly what means the culture of continuously improvement, right? So you had to, mistakes come any single day, but I believe you take responsibility and move on. You build up on mistakes and move on. Exactly. You can't spend more than a few hours a day, and after you need to improve and move on.
And the thing is, too, that's the only way. Is, as you say, mistakes happen. So my job is not to expect my employees to be perfect.
No,
they will never be. System that catches mistakes. So when we build an event, we now have a system where someone builds everything for the event, then another person double checks the event, and then a third person double checks it again. And so now if something still goes wrong, it's not one person who screwed up, it's three people. And now we have a problem. How could we miss that? But because of that, we now have a process that isn't built on blame. It's built on, of course, you're going to make mistakes. You're setting up an event. There's like a million different things to do. You're going to get three of them wrong. That's going to happen. But we're going to double check and triple check to find them before we go live.
You had to have a system, right? Which is a progressive system. You edit, you improve any single day. Yeah. And that's how it works in any company, I believe. But let me go back to the culture, the DNA. Where does it come from? Because this is something I've been questioning with many friends of mine. So where do you see the DNA be established? Because there are CEOs that truly believe they must be tough, period.
Yeah.
Right? You made a mistake, you are fired, you go home. Yeah. There are people like me, I do the opposite, which is not being too kind, because you can't be too much kind. But at the same time, you need to give them the possibility to try. And because you're giving them the possibility to try, they will fail probably. But they had to have the freedom to fail. And you sit down with them and say, okay, you failed, we failed. No, you failed. Now let's see what's wrong and right. And let's try to make this failure a success. But in this way, I'm not saying you need to reward the failure, but you need to reward at least they try to do something new. How do you see this playing?
Well, that's brilliant. And I love that you say, let's turn this failure into a success, because, like we got these email titles wrong. That's a failure. But now what did I learn? Well, my team doesn't know enough about how to do it. So tomorrow we're doing a training on NLP. And now this is going to make the whole company more successful. We learned something. So that failure is now a success that will make the company better forever. But I think what it starts with there for the culture is, it's from the beginning, when the company is small, it needs to come from the top. because what's going to happen is you're going to have a list of values, right? You might have 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, values like this is what we live by. And those should be clearly stated. It should, like for us, right? It's the extreme ownership, 1% better every day. The, the family is family and health and so on. And you need everyone to know these, but you need to test these within yourself, because if people come on and sign up for this company and they're like, oh, these values are amazing, they resonate with me, and then they start working in the company and you as the manager keep breaking these values or rewarding different things, right? For let's take for yourself. You say, I want you guys to try things out. I want you to make mistakes. I want you to make improvements. And then someone tries something and it goes wrong and you slap them, right?
Yeah.
Now, that person's never going to try anything again. And everyone else in the office,
of course,
saw like, I don't want to get slapped. So the fact that you then go, all right, how do we do it? You prove that you mean it. And so if you look at your values, and so you and me, we love testing, and it's okay that there are mistakes as long as we learn and as long as we don't make a stupid mistake. But like, as long as there was a reason to test, of course we should test, and let's split test and try things. But if that's not who you are, if you as a leader are, we have a process, and the process should be perfect, and it should be the same every single time. Like, say if you're making a Louis Vuitton bag, right? You can't have an employee who's stitching on the last stitches on this bag that's going to go to the store, try something new, because it has to be the same, right? So sometimes you cannot do innovations. That's for another place and time. Yeah. And if so, you got to be clear with, well, in my company, we don't test new things. We do this and we do that, and that is what I reward. And so you got to make sure the values you claim to have are the values you actually have. And if you do, then I think it becomes a part of the culture. If you keep talking about it and you reward it, it becomes the culture. And then it can start coming from below.
Wait, do you believe as a CEO, I mean, let's talk about CEO or ownership. Anybody who's running the show, I mean, just running the company. You must act as a boss. That's something that it really resonates to me, because since I think I worked in my life for as an employee for 12 months, and after say that is not for me. It does fit to me at all. I suffer any single day I come here, so I'm going to open my company. It's idea straightforward after diversity. But I had a very strong boss in my life. I mean, in terms of university, my professor, I had so many of them very, very tough. Yeah. And after working to this company, these 12 months with the CEO was unbelievable. This guy has almost zero empathy, and you must do this period without even telling you why, and not how, but at least why. And I said to me, I can't do this. I mean, if something does work for me, how can I ask others work for them? Yeah. So I say I must lead and not be a boss. So because I don't believe leaders must be bossy at all. So how do you say this? Do you think? First of all, how are you? Are you bossing with your employees, or you're someone who must work with them, not them work for you?
I love that question. So I see it as, in either case, you need to be yourself, right? So I'm like you. I'm a leader. I like working with the team. And when I delegate a task, they own that task. I'm not like, for example, we just hired a person to come in and manage all of our affiliate partnerships. And so we agreed, it's her job, it's her department now. I've given her full responsibility for it. And then I had a bunch of ideas that I was really excited to implement. But I realized that, no, I've delegated this to her. So I can't go and start implementing these things because this is her department now. So even as the CEO, I actually had to go to her and say, Kalinka, look, I have these ideas. Do you want to use them for your department? Here they are. Take them if you want, or don't if you want. It's your department, but we'll come back and check what your results are. But as long as you're doing it, you can say, screw all of my ideas. It's your department. And I think it's important. Like for me, I like the servant leader, right? So my job is to inspire. My job is to explain the why. My job is to get everyone to understand our values. My job is to help them see where are they leaking potential. So I work a lot on their time management, their skills now with the NLP, right? How do we, which is neuro-linguistic programming, basically how do you communicate? So I'm working with my team to like, all right, where are we losing potential? And that's what I try to fix. Now, if that is not who you are as a person, if you are a bossy, like take your boss, that old boss who absolutely didn't work for you, that is okay. That person should not try to become a different person. That person should not be you or me. That's a bossy person. Now, they can still become a better communicator. They should definitely learn to explain why, right? So it's like, I need you to do this now. It's my way or the highway, but this is why I need you to do this now, because it's really important. And just take those extra 30 seconds to explain why. That's something you can learn. You can't change who you are, but you can at least learn some skills of like, all right, whenever I give a task, I need to explain why. Just add 30 seconds of your time and it will make a huge difference. So I think it's okay either way, because then you'll attract employees that fit your communication style. Some people love a boss that is really clear, right? Some people would hate having me as manager going, great, this is your department, do your thing. Like, what do you mean do my thing? Tell me what to do. Why? I don't know. And they would freak out, right? But other people love it and go like, awesome, yes, let me be creative and figure this out, because they also know I'm there. So they can always come to me and say, hey, can we bounce some ideas? I want to try stuff, but it's their decision. And that will fit some and not others.
I mean, hiring is such a massive task in any company. At the very beginning, startups, for example, they really struggle because you don't have so much money. So you need to hire talents, but talents get paid more than you can afford. So it's very much difficult to do so. But in hiring, as you are very much skilled in hiring, do you think hiring must come from attitude or skills? I hire from attitude. I always believe the skills, not all of them, but part of them can be learned. Attitude cannot be learned. If you are someone who really wants to learn, I had a couple of guys, I was shocked. I mean, how many hours they were working. And I would see myself when I was young, all my friends, they were telling me, Max, why are you working all these hours if they don't pay you? I say, I'm working for these hours for me, not for them. I spend 12 hours because I want to learn. I don't mind if they pay me or not. I really don't care. Yeah. But I do the same. I mean, I really hire based on attitude before anything else. And if needed, I help them to get skilled. How do you see this, Blaine?
I love that you say that. We actually had to put a rule in the company that you're not allowed to work more than 55 hours a week without prior permission. Because again, health and family and wellness is an important value to us, right? And we had employees working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And we're like, no, this is not healthy. Stop. So that, again, and that proves our values, right? It proves that what we say is our value. And that's important. When it comes to hiring, there are certain roles where you need a certain set of skills, right? My CFO needs to know how to run finance, right? Absolutely. And like the affiliate manager, she needed to have contacts in this industry and understand how it worked. So some skills, yes. But as you say, 90 whatever % of it is attitude, because everything else can be taught. So the first thing I'm always looking for is this someone that's going to fit our culture? So are they, will they take ownership? Will they want to become 1% better every day? How do they handle feedback? How can we converse back and forth? How are they as a communicator? because we have a lot of communication. So if you can't communicate in our company, it's not going to work because we communicate. So first I'm trying to figure out, is it a fit? Then I'm trying to figure out what are their values and what are their, as you say, attitudes towards these different things, and how do they then see our vision? Because it's not just in an interview. I think an important thing to realize is it's not, if I'm trying to hire you, it's not just me deciding if I want you. You got to decide if you want me. And so as much of my interview is me pitching my company as you pitching you. Yeah. And if I sense that you're not buying into the vision, if you're kind of going, well, it's a nice salary, I'll take it. Well, why would I want you? I want you to go, wait a sec, I will get to help people all over the world realize their dreams. That's amazing. Of course I'm in. What, you work with these speakers? I'm already fans of these speakers. I follow them on social media and we work with them. That's amazing, right? I want them to be as passionate. Well, I mean, maybe not as passionate as me, but I want them to be passionate about what we're doing. Because if they are, that's when I have to tell them, stop working, for God's sakes, go spend time with your family. But if they're not, then, just getting them to do what they need to do, the 1% better every day, like looking to find things to improve, how to be creative, that's not going to happen if they're not passionate.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't, absolutely. But when I hire, I'm a bit brutal because I really say to anybody, if you're coming here for money, don't come.
Yeah.
Absolutely don't come. If you do not address, you really don't believe in what we are doing, don't come at all. Exactly. Of course, you need to work because you need to keep going with your life. You have bills to pay any single day. But at the same time, I believe when you embrace the culture and the vision and the mission of a company, you must give yourself, as you say, in a healthy way, not working night and day. If you're the owner, it's a different story. But even there, as you said, you can lose everything. From the wife to the kids, you absolutely can lose everything if you can't balance a bit. But at the same time, do you believe that when someone walk into your company where you run, you spend all the time with others, I'm asking this because I'm a massive fan of team. I'm not a fan of individuals. Yeah. So when I talk, not does mean, of course, I am fan of guys who can stand up, right, from the crowd. Yeah. But at the same time, what I tell them is, okay, you are smarter than them. That's obvious, right? That make sure that you use your to be stronger than this guy mentally, skills to help them and not to push them down. Because if you are helping yourself, because maybe you want to be promoted, I'm the first one who kick you out because you have destroyed my entire team, and one person can't do a company. That's all.
Yeah, that's such a good example. I mean, for us, if we start with the money part there, we pay a good, not great salary, but we pay a good salary. But then we give a profit share. So everyone in the company gets a share of the profit of the year paid out, which means now they're all like, they all have a stake in our success, and they all have a stake. If that person is screwing up, that's going to hurt my end of the year result. So you better step up. So it keeps everyone keeping each other accountable in a good way, right? We're trying to lift each other. And again, it goes to that hiring for attitude, right? If you're hiring someone, and again, that was kind of what was the first version of the Swedish Wealth Institute versus this one. The old one, everyone was working really hard. It looked like a really good company, but everyone was working really hard because they wanted to be the star. And that was the goal. And that's not building a business. That's building, that can build an Olympic team in different sports, but it doesn't build an Olympic team in like a team sport.
Of course not.
And that's where we, in this version, we had our team meeting this morning, and we had our newest employee come on, and it was her first meeting with the team. And we were breaking down these last couple events, and we did the analysis, and everyone's owning their mistake, and it's all group, it's group masterminding around it. So there's no one sitting there going, okay, so Sagir had this idea, Rona had this idea, that's one point, right? It's like, no, we're all improving together. And so by the end of it, she just had to go like, all right, guys, wait, before we continue this meeting, she's been in this industry for a long time. She just said, like, I've been to so many meetings like this where companies are breaking down their results and checking after. Like, I've never seen it done like this. I've never seen everyone owning their part and everyone being creative and finding ways to improve without ego, without judgment, without any of these negative emotions. And I think now we've come to a place where we've established that culture, which means now if someone comes in and has a different, like if they don't mold into that culture, they will stick out very quickly. And it's very easy to go, look, you're just not a fit. There's the door.
Oh, yeah.
And because it's clear what's expected of you. Like for Kalinka, who came in now, she knows exactly how we are. Like she's never going to come to a meeting with a different expectation of how the team functions now.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Let me close with any recommendation that you can give to all the young entrepreneurs, founders that are watching today.
Oh, I think read, continue to learn. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So we have the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast where we interview absolutely amazing people, founders, business owners. I listen a lot to the Acquired podcast and Business Wars, who tell like chronological stories of companies, which is really cool. I read a lot of biographies, both of business owners, but also just successful people through history, people like your Napoleon and, Napoleon Bonaparte and Julius Caesar, and, just learning from what did they do? Why did they do it? How did they communicate? Why were they so loved by their employees or soldiers? We can learn so much from that. So I think as long as you don't stop learning, and obviously you haven't, we're 58 minutes into this episode and you're still listening. So obviously you're doing something right if you're listening to me give this recommendation. So just keep doing that and keep identifying things that you can improve 1% better every day in yourself, and you're unstoppable.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming to the Mentor Talk. It's been an absolute
Thank you. I appreciate you
pleasure.
having me.
Thank you.